Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Couric in New York, and this is a Yahoo News special report. There's been a major development today in the crash of the Russian charter plane that killed 224 people over the weekend. Now, U.S. officials are saying it's possible it was ISIS that downed the plane. Michael Isikoff is our investigative reporter here at Yahoo News, and he's been working the phone. So what do we know right now, and what are you hearing from your sources?
First of all, no definitive conclusions yet, but there is a growing feeling that this is looking more and more like it was a terrorist bomb. Not a shoot down of the plane, as some people speculated originally. The plane was just way too high for any manpads to reach that. But the idea that a bomb may have been placed on the plane in Sharm el-Sheikh, where it took off, is what investigators are focusing on. The analogy is being made at this point to Pan Am 103, shot down the bomb that blew up over Lockerbie, Scotland in 1988. But I just want to stress, no definitive conclusions at this point.
So theoretically, what are they saying, Mike? Are they saying, do they have any details about what might have happened? I've heard of a food cart, suggestions about a food cart. What are you hearing?
I mean, a bomb could have been smuggled on the plane in Sharm el-Sheikh. The fact that the flight data recorder stopped abruptly, that was a big tell.
That the plane was not in any kind of distress, or there wasn't a warning period.
Right. And there was nothing from the pilots indicating that they were in distress. So that's an indicator. But, in some respects, the mere fact, we do know that ISIS was, has had a huge presence in the Sinai, that there's been multiple attacks from ISIS. ISIS claimed credit, of course, for this right away.
An ISIS affiliate. What exactly does that mean?
Well, listen, ISIS has lots of affiliates at this point, associated forces. There's all sorts of terminology. But people who have pledged allegiance to Baghdadi, pledged allegiance to the caliphate, even if they're not operating under command and control.
Right.
I mean, Boko Haram has said nice words about ISIS and its ideological alignment. But what I'm saying is that absent a definitive conclusion at this point, ISIS may have already achieved its purpose, even if it didn't put the bomb on, because now there is the widespread belief that it did, or somebody associated with it did, and absent something definitive, that will be how people interpret this act at this point.
And their goal is obviously to terrorize the world in terms of what they want to achieve.
And if this is confirmed, it does take the ISIS threat to an entirely new level.
Well, let's talk about that. Yeah. Where are we when it comes to the war on ISIS? I mean, obviously, the president announced that he was sending 50 special ops, which seems to Syria, which seems really kind of pretty meager. I'm not a military expert, but considering how big ISIS has become and how huge a threat that they're posing, what is the feeling about dispatching those troops?
There has been tension for the past year within the intelligence community over this, because a lot of people did not want to accept the idea that ISIS was a threat to the homeland or to Western countries in the same way that al-Qaeda was. Al-Qaeda was, clearly had plotted, had a long history. ISIS seemed to be more a localized threat in the region.
They didn't seem as bent on the destruction of America, at least in their rhetoric, as al-Qaeda did. They seemed more interested in building a caliphate, if you will, right?
They've got a war on their hands in Iraq and Syria that they are fighting. But look, Russia intervened in Syria, even though most of their bombing doesn't seem to have been aimed at ISIS. It was in support of the Assad regime. ISIS is fighting the Assad regime. So was this a retaliation for Russia's growing presence in Syria? That's certainly one theory. But the idea that they would use a tactic, that they might have used a tactic like this, planting a bomb on a plane, killing civilians, does take the ISIS threat to a whole new level. It makes it a lot harder for those who have tried to argue that it was not that they are not a direct threat to the homeland. That's going to be a much more difficult case to make, and I think people are going to reach the opposite conclusion at this point.
And is there any indication in the intelligence community that there will be heightened security on U.S. airplanes, on commercial airlines, as a result of this act?
Well, there's already pretty tight security, as you know, but it is interesting. The State Department today warned Americans not to visit the Sinai. There is, the British have done the same. So I think that there's clearly going to be any flights, visits to Egypt are going to get a lot more scrutiny now. It's going to draw the Egyptians much more into what is becoming a wider regional conflict. So there are all sorts of geopolitical implications from this reporting today that are going to be playing out over the next days and weeks.
All right. Michael Isikoff, as always, thanks so much. And we always look forward to hearing what you all have to say. You can use the hashtag Yahoo Live to let us know what you think about this latest development in the war against ISIS. For now, I'm Katie Couric in New York. Thanks so much for watching.